In the heart of Chicago's bustling downtown, where glass skyscrapers gleamed under the morning sun, Lily Chen shuffled through the revolving doors of Pinnacle Enterprises. Her worn sneakers squeaked against the polished marble floor, and her oversized sweater hung loosely on her slight frame. At 22, Lily was a temp worker, hired just a week ago to clean the offices of the city's most prestigious marketing firm. Her dark hair was tied back in a messy bun, and her eyes, though tired, held a quiet determination. She carried a mop and a bucket, her tools of survival in a world that often overlooked her. Lily had grown up in a cramped apartment on the city's south side, raised by her grandmother after her parents passed in a car accident when she was 6. Money was always tight, but Lily never complained. She worked odd jobs, waitressing, dog walking, cleaning, anything to help her grandmother with rent and medical bills. Pinnacle was her latest gig, and though the pay was meager, she approached it with the same quiet diligence she brought to everything. She didn't dream of wealth or status. She dreamed of a day when her grandmother could rest without worrying about the next bill. That morning, as Lily mopped the hallway on the 32nd floor, she hummed softly, a habit that kept her grounded. The office was a maze of glass-walled conference rooms and sleek desks, where executives in tailored suits barked orders into headsets. Lily kept her head down, invisible to them, just as she preferred. But not everyone let her fade into the background. "Watch it, girl," snapped a sharp voice. Margaret Voss, the floor's supervisor, stood over her, arms crossed. Margaret was a tall woman in her 40s, with a severe bob haircut and a penchant for power. Her designer heels clicked as she inspected Lily's work. "You missed a spot. Again. Do you even know how to clean properly?" Lily's cheeks flushed, but she nodded. "I'm sorry, ma'am. I'll fix it." "Sorry doesn't cut it," Margaret sneered, her voice loud enough to draw glances from nearby cubicles. "This is Pinnacle Enterprises, not some dive bar. You're lucky to even be here." She pointed at a faint smudge on the glass door of a conference room. "Clean it. Now." Lily dropped to her knees, scrubbing the glass with her rag. She didn't argue. She couldn't afford to. Jobs like this were hard to come by, and she needed every cent. But Margaret wasn't done. "Faster," she barked, stepping closer, her shadow looming over Lily. "You're pathetic. Look at you, crawling on the floor like a dog." A few employees snickered from their desks, and Lily's hands trembled. She kept her eyes on the glass, focusing on the motion of her rag, willing herself not to cry. She thought of her grandmother's warm smile. Her voice sang, "Kindness is your strength, Lily. Never let anyone take that from you." It was enough to keep her going, even as Margaret's words stung like needles. What Lily didn't know, what no one in that office knew, was that someone was watching. From the executive suite on the 40th floor, Ethan Caldwell, the CEO of Pinnacle Enterprises, had just stepped off the elevator. At 30, Ethan was an enigma, a billionaire who'd built Pinnacle from a small startup into a global powerhouse, yet he shunned the spotlight. He preferred quiet evenings with a book over glitzy galas, and his employees rarely saw him outside of board meetings. But today he'd come down to the 32nd floor to meet a client, and his sharp blue eyes caught the scene unfolding in the hallway. Ethan paused, his jaw tightening as he watched Margaret berate the young woman on her knees. He didn't know Lily's name, but something about her quiet resilience, the way she didn't snap back despite the humiliation, struck a chord. Ethan had grown up in foster care, bounced from home to home, and he knew what it was to feel invisible. He'd clawed his way to the top, but he never forgot the sting of being looked down on. "Margaret!" Ethan's voice cut through the hallway, calm but commanding. The supervisor froze, her face paling as she turned to see the SO striding toward her. Employees at their desks went silent, sensing the shift in the air. "Mr. Caldwell," Margaret stammered, smoothing her blazer. "I was just ensuring the cleaning staff." "Humiliating her?" Ethan finished, his tone icy. He glanced at Lily, who was still on her knees, her eyes wide with confusion. "Stand up," he said gently, extending a hand. Lily hesitated, then took his hand, her fingers calloused from years of hard work. She stood, brushing her sweater, unsure why the man in the expensive suit was looking at her with such intensity. "I'm sorry if I caused trouble," she murmured, her voice barely audible. "You didn't," Ethan said firmly. He turned to Margaret. "Explain why you think it's acceptable to treat anyone like this." Margaret's mouth opened and closed like a fish. She wasn't doing her job properly, sir. I was just. Enough. Ethan's voice was low, but it carried the weight of authority. You're suspended, effective immediately. HR will discuss your conduct further. The office was deathly quiet as Margaret gathered her things, her face a mix of shock and fury. She stormed out, leaving a stunned Lily in her wake. Ethan turned to her, his expression softening. What's your name? Lily Chun, she said, her voice steady despite her racing heart. Lily, he repeated, as if testing the sound. You don't deserve to be treated like that. No one does. She nodded, unsure what to say. Thank you, sir. I just want to do my job. Ethan studied her for a moment, then said, Come with me. Lily followed, bewildered, as he led her to the elevator and up to the 40th floor. The executive suite was a world apart, plush carpets, mahogany furniture, and a view of Lake Michigan that took her breath away. Ethan gestured to a chair across from his desk. Sit. She did, clutching her mop like a lifeline. Am I in trouble? She asked. Ethan smiled, a rare warmth in his eyes. No, Lily. I want to know more about you. Over the next hour, Lily told him her story, not out of pride, but because he asked with genuine curiosity. She spoke of her grandmother, her struggles, her small joys like reading library books or cooking dumplings on Sundays. Ethan listened, captivated by her honesty, her lack of bitterness despite a life that hadn't been kind. He saw something in her, a spark of selflessness, a strength that didn't need to shout to be felt. What Lily didn't know was that Ethan had been searching for someone like her, not just for Pinnacle, but for his life. He'd dated models and heiresses, but their worlds felt hollow. Lily was different, real, grounded, her kindness a quiet force that drew him in. He didn't tell her this, not yet. Instead, he offered her a new role, an assistant in the marketing department, with training and a salary that made her eyes widen. I can't, she protested. I don't have the education, the skills. You have heart, Ethan said. That's harder to find than a degree. Let me help you. Lily hesitated, then nodded. She didn't trust easily, but something in Ethan's eyes felt safe, like a promise kept. Weeks passed, and Lily thrived. She learned quickly, her natural empathy winning over colleagues who'd once ignored her. Ethan watched from afar, his admiration growing into something deeper. He started finding excuses to talk to her, discussing campaigns, sharing coffee in the break room. Lily, oblivious to his feelings, saw him as a kind boss, nothing more. But the office wasn't blind. Rumors swirled about the CEO's interest in the former cleaner. Some whispered jealousy, others curiosity. Margaret, reinstated after a formal apology and demotion, seethed in silence, her pride wounded. She began digging into Lily's past, hoping to find dirt to discredit her. One evening, as Lily stayed late to finish a project, Margaret cornered her in the copy room. You think you're special because he pities you? She hissed. You're still just a nobody. Lily's heart sank, but she stood tall. I'm here to work, Margaret. That's all. Margaret's smirk faltered when Ethan appeared in the doorway, his face dark with anger. Leave, Margaret. For good this time. As Margaret slunk away, Ethan turned to Lily. She's wrong, you know. You're not a nobody. He paused, searching for words. You're someone who makes this place better. Who makes me better? Lily blinked, her breath catching. For the first time, she saw the vulnerability in his eyes, the way he looked at her not as an employee, but as someone he cherished. Her heart raced, torn between fear and a warmth she hadn't felt in years. The climax came at Pinnacle's annual gala, a glittering event at the Art Institute of Chicago. Lily attended, feeling out of place in a borrowed dress, but Ethan insisted she come. As the night wore on, he took the stage to announce a new initiative, a scholarship fund for underprivileged youth, inspired by a woman who'd shown him the power of kindness. He called Lily to the stage, the crowd gasping as she walked up, her eyes wide with shock. Lily Chun, Ethan said, his voice carrying over the silent room, reminded me why I started this company, not for profit, but to make a difference. She's the heart of Pinnacle, and, he hesitated, then took her hand, his voice softening. She's the heart of me. The room erupted in applause, but Lily barely heard it. She looked at Ethan, her voice trembling. You mean that? More than anything, he said, and in front of Chicago's elite, he kissed her hand, a gesture so simple, yet so profound it brought tears to her eyes. The story didn't end there. Lily and Ethan grew closer, their bond built on mutual respect and shared values. She never stopped being kind, never forgot her roots. She visited her grandmother every weekend, now in a comfortable new apartment paid for by Lily's new salary. Pinnacle's scholarship fund changed lives, and Lily became its fiercest advocate, proving that power lies not in wealth, but in humanity. And in the quiet moments, when Ethan and Lily stood together on the 40th floor, watching the city lights, they knew they'd found something rare, a love that began with a mop and a bucket, and grew into a legacy of kindness that would outlast them both.